members of the executive that have joined him for this very urgent press conference. And without spending too much time of that, we have at least 5 members of EXCO present in the house, but I'll introduce the ones that are seated on the panel. We do have, of course, on the extreme left from where I'm standing, Ms. Refilwe Mokwena, who is our Chief Officer for Legal. And then on the extreme right here, just next to me is Mr. Tebogo Mokwena, who is our Chief Officer for Customs and Excise. And I just want to emphasize that the two are neither a couple, nor are they relatives. There are no family links between them. They just happen to be Mokwenas who work at SARS. And of course, next to the commissioner is Mr. Luther Libilo, who is our acting chief officer for human capital and development. And we wish to acknowledge the other 2 members of the EXCO who are 3 who are in the audience and will assist in any way with any of the questions that may come up at the time, and we'll introduce them then. And I want to thank you heartily for taking the time to come through at such short notice. And we also want to apologize for the slight delay because we were getting calls from some of your colleagues who were caught up in traffic and asked and pleaded for your patience. So it wasn't on our part. And of course, we will know that now you probably had to drop urgent business for you to be here. And of course, you may also have had prior commitments. And I want to thank you for coming through, because it shows that you realize that willingly or unwillingly, SARS is a top urgent priority business for the country. I'm not too sure if we're all aware, but you break SARS, it means that you'll be messing up with the effective democracy still fledgling in our country and the service delivery program of the government. And I am just citing this because it's very important for all of us to realize that protecting SARS is not just SARS's job. It's all our responsibility as South African citizens as this relates to the culture of tax morality that we should all be concerned about. And of course, what one prides himself in is the fact that SARS, at least according to the perception of its peers globally, is seen as one of the most efficient and effective revenue agencies in the world. One of the points that we never repeat and emphasize to ourselves to see how much we have gone as a people, especially in the last 20 years. SARS is only 20 years old. And of course, it is a strong and resilient organization that has been told there's been an increasing, mounting pressure that it must fix itself. And before I hand over to the Commissioner to read the statement that has brought all of us here, I guess I wish to reiterate that SARS is efficient and efficient. But I don't know, it may break if we keep on trying to fix what is not broken. And my name is Sandile Memela. It's my pleasure and privilege to serve as your program director for this afternoon. The Commissioner will go ahead to read a statement. And then, of course, after that, we will invite clarity-seeking questions. And one will plead and ask with media colleagues that no, we confine ourselves to the issue at hand today. And if there are any other unrelated matters, we may have to take them offline and explore ways of arranging for interviews with the relevant person. And of course, we'll take a first batch of questions, let's say 3, 4, 5, and then a second one and close it, because I'm sure that you'd want to go back to your offices to do what you have to do. And I'll also ask that now when we ask our questions, we not prolong them into speeches and statements. We literally have less than 20 days to go before we've got to finish off the business of the financial year, which is to collect the reviewed target of 1,217 billion rands. A lot of money that the country needs. And without further ado, let me invite the Commissioner of SARS, Mr. Tom Moyane, to announce what he has invited us for and take it from there. Over to you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Sandile Memela. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, the general public watching, and South African community at large. I'm greatly humbled and indebted to the members of the media in heeding to the call to be present this afternoon for this media briefing. Particularly taking into account that the media briefing was called at extremely short notice. We're sincerely humbled. To announce this afternoon that Mr. Jonas Makwakwa has resigned this morning from his employment with the South African Revenue Service as the Chief Officer, Business and Individual Taxes, what we call BAIT. Mr. Makwakwa's resignation is effective immediately as of the 14th of March 2018 at 1100 hours. I would like to briefly explain the chronological sequence of events that has led to Mr. Makwakwa's resignation. Before I do that, it will be prudent for me to state it that in his letter of resignation, Mr. Makwakwa has indicated that he is resigning for personal reasons. He regards this as being an opportune moment for him to exit SARS after being cleared of all the allegations of misconduct through a formal disciplinary hearing, and after making the investigation report into allegations of impropriety against him and his personal tax information available to Parliament for scrutiny and for public accountability. I shall deal with the aspects of the investigation and the parliamentary process later in this statement. Mr. Makwakwa has served SARS for the past 22 years. As a result, I would like to thank him for his loyal service and wish him well for all his future endeavors. I now wish to deal with the chronological sequence of Mr. Makwakwa's resignation. Allegations emerged of impropriety against Mr. Makwakwa by the Financial Intelligence Center, and there were subsequent investigations and outcomes. The current stage of the criminal investigation by the Directorate of Priority Crime Investigation, commonly known as the DPCI, under the DPCI Inquiry 3/06/2016 against Mr. Makwakwa in respect of allegations of corruption, money laundering, and racketeering. And of course, the recent allegations of impropriety against Mr. Makwakwa in respect of the selection and appointment of the new integrated credit solution, a debt collection agency. Allow me then, members of the media and the society at large, to deal with allegations of impropriety against Mr. Makwakwa by the Financial Intelligence Center and subsequent investigations and outcomes. The FIC submitted the investigation report and was received by myself at SARS during the course of May 9, 2016. Upon receipt of the report, I engaged with the FIC with regard to the need of the FIC and SARS to cooperate with each other in respect of an investigation into allegations of corruption, money laundering, and possible violation of tax statutes against Mr. Makwakwa. The FIC submitted the report to the Hawks, and the Hawks had commenced with its criminal investigation under the DPCI Inquiries 3/06/2016. This criminal investigation is ongoing, and SARS is fully cooperating with the investigation. With regard to the FIC, it must be noted that SARS did not receive then the much-needed assistance, and this process took longer than anticipated. With hindsight, the differences between the FIC and SARS on this matter should have been able to be resolved speedily. As a result of the lack of assistance then, during September 2016, SARS proceeded to suspend Mr. Makwakwa on the basis of the allegations contained in the FIC report. During October 2016, SARS appointed Hogan Lovells to conduct an investigation into allegations of impropriety against Mr. Makwakwa. Hogan Lovells were also instructed to appoint PricewaterhouseCoopers to assist with the investigation, and in particular with regard to an analysis and full audit of evidence of Mr. Makwakwa's financial affairs. Hogan Lovells, together with PwC, finalized the investigation and submitted the report to the SARS around May 2017. In the main, the investigation report recommended that disciplinary proceedings be instituted against Mr. Makwakwa, and in particular with regard to his failure to make the required declarations in accordance with the SARS ethics policy, and possible contravention of the Public Finance Management Act 1 of 1999. Further, the investigation report recommended that the aspects of the investigation pertaining to money laundering and corruption be fully investigated by the DPCI as an authorized authority with the necessary capability. It is a matter of public knowledge that Mr. Makwakwa was cleared of all the charges at the disciplinary proceedings chaired by Advocate Terry Mutau SC. The investigation to corruption and money laundering is ongoing, and that SARS is cooperating with the DPCI. Together with SARS, a decision has been made to make Mr. Makwakwa's tax records available to Parliament under conditions agreed between SARS and the Standing Committee on Finance. Mr. Makwakwa's tax records will be submitted together with the investigation report by Hogan Lovells and incorporating the report by the PwC. The said report will be submitted on or before the 16th of March 2018. As mentioned, this criminal investigation is ongoing and SARS is fully cooperating with the Hawks. Let me then deal with the recent allegations of impropriety against Mr. Makwakwa in respect to the selection and appointment of new integrated credit solution, NICS. As I understand the allegations, on the 13th and the 14th of this month, of March 2018, the media widely reported that Mr. Makwakwa irregularly.
You're watching News Today. Thank you for joining us. Now, that was the live crossing there to the South African.
Notwithstanding the ongoing criminal investigation by the DPCI into allegations of corruption and money laundering involving Mr. Makwakwa and NICS together with other entities in respect of payment of over 400,000 paid to Mr. Makwakwa. These allegations are currently being investigated by the Hawks on the basis of the FIC report dated May 2016. As I understand the allegations, Mr. Makwakwa was conflicted and he failed to declare a potential conflict of interest, acted dishonestly, failed to act fairly, and failed to recuse himself from the adjudication as the circumstances duly required. I formally put this matter before Mr. Makwakwa with the intention to suspend him in respect of the said allegations pending an investigation. At this point, he denied the allegations and indicated to me that he had already decided to resign. Human Resources also received the letter to this effect. Due to the resignation being effective immediately, it serves no purpose to proceed with the matter from an employment relations perspective. However, an investigation will proceed to probe the allegations of irregularities surrounding the appointment of NICS. This matter will also be referred to the DPCI for criminal investigation. Furthermore, the SARS is currently preparing a letter to NICS to give cause why the bid should not be suspended pending an investigation. In this regard, SARS reserved its legal rights in law, including institutional legal proceedings, to terminate the relationship between SARS and NICS. In conclusion, as a commissioner, I would be negligent if I did not admit that the incidents surrounding the issues on Mr. Makwakwa have taught us a valuable lesson. I'm sure there are areas that we could improve, and I would have handled the matter differently and better. I want to thank you all, members of the media, and it's about time that we take questions from yourselves. In the process, I'll be assisted by Mr. Luther Libelo, Mr. Rufila Mokwena, Mr. Teboho Mokwena, and Johnston Makubi in answering your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Com, for what is a detailed and comprehensive background to give context to how this story has unfolded over the last few months, if I must say. And colleagues, it's very important for the Commissioner to have gone into detail, because presumably you'll all be aware that there are many versions of what is happening and how it's happening at SARS, and it's important that we, as the ones with the authoritative voice to tell our own story, we present that too. So I will ask that colleagues first raise their hands, and we allocate them numbers, and then when you put your questions, please identify yourself, and then we'll take our questions in batches of, let's say, 4 for starters, and we'll make sure that we do not waste your time and not have more than 2 rounds. Any takers for the questions? Yes, in the back. Anyone else? I don't see any other hand. It means that we're going to have 1 question for this round whilst other colleagues are thinking. Anyway, let's go for it. Welcome.
Commissioner, I'm a viewer from SABC Africa. I'm just curious as to your, especially your last statement, that you could have handled things differently and better. Can you just let us know, in handling this whole situation, what could you have done differently and better, as you said?
Thank you for that, viewer. In case someone has been struck by a brainwave and they feel that they also have a burning question that can be part of this first round. All right, Commissioner, I guess we'll hand over to you to answer this question. Thank you, Aviwe. Over to you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Aviwe. I think I had to point out this particular point because we are leading a very important institute of state. And therefore, we need to be, at all material times, be aware of things that happen within the organization. And most importantly is when the media raises an issue, we listen and we take stock. But I think it is important that as we listen to the issues that we raise, the issues that make the organization look differently at how it assesses the issues that are in the public domain and the concerns thereof. I'm saying this, we could have dealt with some of the issues differently and better, with hindsight being that mantra. But I think the speed with which, a viewer, that we have acted on this matter demonstrates the resilience of the organization based on factual information that both came from the media and ourselves in investigating this matter. And I think it gives us an opportunity, singular opportunity, as a leadership, that we should be accountable to what is happening within the organization and hold leadership accountable at all material times for ethics and integrity. And I sincerely believe that the manner with which we have handled this matter and we have approached it, especially on the back of the meeting that we had with the Standing Committee on Finance, wherein probing questions were raised with us, and we needed to be able to dig into the bottom of the issues that are raised. Because we cannot be found to be fluffing on issues that might affect, in the main, tax morality and the confidence that the people of South Africa, the taxpayers in particular, have on this institution. And therefore it is in this context that we make that admission, and we believe that we have made a step towards that direction. I hope we have answered that question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that answer, Commissioner, of course, we'll invite the media friends and colleagues for the second and last round of a batch of questions. And as standard, you introduce yourself, you put your question to the Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Colin Gambi from ENCA. I'm struck, Commissioner, by your words here today, that you could have handled matters differently, perhaps better, and that you also could have listened. I wonder whether, Commissioner, you possibly would have the same frame of mind when it comes to the KPMG report. Have you changed your mind in that regard? With regards to Mr. Makwakwa, the Standing Committee on Finance yesterday has asked you to hand over the reports that investigated Mr. Makwakwa. Are you on track to meet the Friday deadline, if I'm correct? And will it still be necessary, in your opinion, to deliver those reports to Parliament?
Yes, Commissioner, I'm going from SABC. I'm just going to throw these questions at you. You'll see how you respond to them or you arrange them. One. Maybe, yeah. First, forgive me if maybe you have commented about this before, but can we have your reaction to the summoning of the former officials here to appear in court, the road unit staff? Two, in your own position, do you feel secure in your position at this point, especially given all the talk out there and some interest groups that according to your head, and the talks that SARS is investigated and those kind of things? Basically, how do you feel right now, sitting in your chair? And would you comment about your relationship with the incoming people at Treasury? Do you have a good relationship with them, comfortable? Are you working well with them? Do they want you in this position, or are they going to be going for you? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for those questions, Mongeni. Is there anyone else who has got questions? Because there is still room to put them through.
Okay. Let me respond to Toli's. Thank you very much, Toli, for the question raised. You raised two questions, one on KPMG and the deadline on Friday. Perhaps both could have been incorporated in a single question because the KPMG report also forms part of the deadline. The KPMG report, as we have articulated in the Standing Committee on Finance, together with Hogan Lovel's report, formed the basis for the discussion that we had on yesterday. And certainly emanating from the discussions and also emanating from what we are discussing this afternoon, there is no doubt, it's not questionable, it's not for discussion. The deadline for submission of such documents was not up for any negotiation. We were going to comply as a matter of fact and principle. But the scenario has changed. Certainly, submitting the reports will be done. But the content is that it gives the committee an opportunity for them to be able to lean on these issues. We will submit the reports, as we've indicated in my statement. We'll submit. The deadline of the 16th is not negotiable. We need to keep to our promise, and therefore that promise is going to be kept. We'll submit the documents as requested and as directed. So I think it covers both. With respect to Mbonge's reaction to the summoning of the former SARS employees. I think the matter is sub judice, and therefore it's being dealt by the competent authority. And I think the question is best directed to the NPA and the authorities that are involved in this matter. Do I feel secure in my position? I think the roots are deeper. I'm firmly rooted into this organization. I don't feel any insecurity. On the contrary, more exuding energy and passion to execute my responsibility as indicated in my contract, especially a contract that I have with the South African people, the taxpayers in particular. I'm emboldened by the fact that the journey is too long, that we need to meet the tax target that has been set by the minister of 1.217 trillion. And it is indicative that we have a strong roots. And I believe that I'm surrounded by men and women who are committed in making a step change and changing the landscape of South Africa. In the last 3 years of tenure of my office, we have never failed to meet the target. And therefore I see no reason whatsoever to feel insecure. It has been a difficult year. Lo and behold, we're about 12 days to the deadline. And we're working hard and we've rolled up our sleeves. Leadership is shown his visibility by being in each and every region where SARS is deployed, is having offices. We're interacting with our employees. We're working very hard for us to be able to achieve and even surpass. You'll agree with me, members of the media, that it has been a very difficult financial year for the country. The economy was supposed to be growing at 1.3%, but lo and behold, we had two quarters wherein we had a technical recession. And we had to work within that economic condition. And as we sit, we are emboldened and we think, and I believe that we are going to the target. We have no option to fail. And I've rallied my troops, the 14,000 men and women at SARS across the whole of South Africa, that we have no other option because the state depends on us to make a difference in the lives of South Africans. Failure not to meet this target, it has consequence for the country not being able to meet its obligations both internally and externally. Working very hard with the colleagues at National Treasury on the basis of cordiality, respect, and support. And therefore I want to indicate to you that I don't have any fears asleep, with the confidence that it deserves, but of course worried that I need to work harder and see that we all march to this ultra-marathon and achieve the target that has been set. How do I feel about the investigation? We have said very clearly that the inquiry that has been proposed into SARS, we welcome it, precisely because we are confident that we are resilient, and it would give us an opportunity to be able to see what is it that we need to strengthen and fortify. And if there are lapses in the process, it will help us to become a stronger institution. Because being put on the spotlight gives us an opportunity to do an introspection from an organizational perspective as to where are the weaknesses and the strength of this organization. Periodical reviews in any organization give you a rearview mirror to be able to see where you have been and where you want to be. And I sincerely believe that once that investigation, the terms of reference are given to us, we'll certainly comply and comply fully as to how it needs to achieve its intended objectives. Relationship with the new minister and the deputy minister, I think the question is a little bit loaded, a little bit pregnant. But let me say this to you. I have cordial relationship with leadership at all levels, at all times. I've worked with Minister Nene. I've never had any issue to raise because he's my political leader, executive authority. Comply and work in achieving the vision that he requires in making National Treasury and SARS and the country be proud. In his endeavors, as he makes the investors understand the landscape of economic development of South Africa. It is important that SARS forms part of that nexus. We form a very important connection. And therefore you can ill afford to have a situation wherein I have what you call a discord. I have good relationship and we work cordially. I have congratulated the minister and the deputy minister. And therefore it's business unusual, because ours is to effectively and efficiently collect all revenue due to the South African fiscus. On that content and note, there are no issues. I'm not sure as to why this question arises in the beginning, but certainly you have the right to ask that question, because there has to be a relationship that engenders good governance, good administrative ethics, and that's what I think we have. It's not something that I have a doubt on. I'm not a doubting Thomas, although my name is Tom. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Com. I'm sure that media colleagues are emboldened, and of course we are open and transparent and encourage you asking questions without any fear or favor. And then of course we see you, Toli. Any other one? Any other person who wants to put questions? Let's give you another opportunity, Toli.
Thank you, Commissioner. Just one question. Do you still believe in the existence of the so-called SARS roadmap? Did you still believe, given that the likes of KPMG have withdrawn their recommendations and conclusions or findings? And based on your answer, what should we then make of your complaint to the police? I think the case that you opened at the police station. Do you still believe that that should still go? Thank you.
In the absence of any other question, Toli, thank you very much. I think I'll repeat myself, perhaps expatiate a little bit. This matter was raised in 2015, 2016, wherein I laid a complaint after a confession. In fact, it was a confession by 2 employees, and I don't want to get into the merits and the demerits thereof. And it is common cause to indicate that the matter is now been raised by the National Prosecuting Authority. Whether I believe that this unit existed or does not exist, I think the competent authority will be able to respond to that and answer and be able to find a conclusion through the investigation that will take place. I think it would be premature for me to come to that conclusion at this point in time. Suffice to say, what you say is true, and that's the narrative and that's the chronology of things. And I would sincerely request that we give the National Prosecuting Authority and the competent authorities like the Hawks who are involved in this matter to deal with this matter and give them the space, and then they'll inform the public. Because the outcomes will be there, and it's not for me to prejudge as to what the tenor and the tone or the outcome is going to be. Suffice to say, let's give the NPA and the Hawks the space, because they've already publicly announced this matter, for them to run the course. And then after that, then we may come back and say, Mr. Moyani, Quo Vadis? And I think that's where we leave it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Commissioner. And I want to reiterate our thankfulness to the members of the media for going out of their way to come through to attend this very urgent press conference that was convened at a very short notice. And of course, it has been a very open and transparent, interactive session with questions put through without any fear or favor. And I also want to extend our thankfulness to the Commissioner and his EXCO members who made themselves available to answer your questions. And of course, SARS remains a pivotal organization to the government's developmental agenda, and we wish to repeat that, the issue of tax morality and how we handle coverage of SARS without any censorship of any kind is paramount. We're looking forward to working with you as we move into the future, and of course on the 3rd of April, and we'll send you confirmation and invitations. We will be seeing you at this venue, if all goes well, for the announcement of the revenue collection. And the target remains 1.217 trillion rands that the country needs to actually carry on with its implementation program of service delivery. Thank you very much. All the best to you and drive safely.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.